this video, I'll be explaining 12 ways how to do well in organic chemistry. What's up guys, it's Sean and welcome back to this channel. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe for more college and pre-med content. And just a little background, I took Organic Chemistry 1 and 2 last year and I did relatively well in both of those classes. And as a little disclaimer, there's no one perfect way to do well in organic chemistry, but I hope with some of the tips that I say in this video, it will increase your chances of doing well in the class. So my first tip is try to have a positive mindset. It's very important to have a positive mindset because you don't want to fall into the stereotypes of this class. Some of the stereotypes that I heard in the past were that Orgo is a memorization class, Orgo is the most difficult class you would take as a pre-med, etc. And it's very important not to fall into those stereotypes because let's say if you do bad on an exam, those stereotypes weight you down and you really do not want that to happen. And lastly, try your best in this class and try to retain information. You definitely do not want to take this class more than once, so definitely try your best in the class, but also retain the information because you might need it for a graduate school exam like the MCAT. So definitely try your best to not only do your best in the class, but also retain the information. So my second tip is to try to review some topics from general chemistry. This way you get ahead in the material and be ahead of your peers, and also it'll get you to the mindset to do well in the class, because Orgo is one of the classes that you can't leave until the last day. You have to be doing it continuously every day. I think the four most important topics to know are periodic trends, hybridization, residence, and nomenclature, as this will set your foundation to do well in the class. So my third tip is to try to get the best professors for organic chemistry, as they will be able to teach the material and help you understand the material rather than memorize it. And resources I use are My Professor, as it will combine a lot of students' opinions and it will rate the professors from 1 to 5 based on how good or how bad they are. But sometimes that could be a little bit biased, so I also use student surveys because they're a little bit less biased and most of the students actually want the professor to improve. And lastly, try to ask upperclassmen because these people probably already took the class already and they're probably already know who the best professor is, so definitely ask them as well. So tip number 4 is to try to review the lectures a few days before or a day before the actual lecture starts. This will help you understand whatever's coming up more, and it will help you ask questions of stuff that you do not know. And so once you get to the actual lecture, you can then focus on notes that you probably didn't know from just pre-reviewing the material. So tip number 5 is to try to understand the material rather than memorize it, especially for Organic Chemistry 1. If I can recall correctly, there are probably around like 150 to 200 reactions in Organic Chemistry 1 and 2. So if you try to memorize all that material, it's gonna be a very tough slope for you, to be honest. But no, seriously, if you can understand material and not memorize as much, then it will make the class more manageable and you'll be able to know why each reaction happens and its purpose. And this could be very helpful to get into synthesis problems. So synthesis problems are very long reactions that have multiple mechanisms in it. So by understanding these reactions, you will be able to solve these synthesis problems more quickly and more effectively. So tip number 6 is that active learning is always going to be greater than the passive learning. So passive learning can be like reading your notes, reading the slides, reading the textbook, and you definitely do not want to do this because you will not be able to fully understand the material that is presented in organic chemistry. So some ways you can implement active learning to organic chemistry is to study a little bit every day. So try to set up a few hours a day to review the material, do practice problems, etc. And also, as I said before, this is not a class that you can just do a few days before. You have to try to put in the work a little bit every day so that you can see better results in your grade. Another way of doing active learning is to try to do practice problems. And this is definitely probably the most primary way of doing well in organic chemistry 1 and 2. So try to do all the suggested practice problems that the professor recommends, because these will probably be the problems that will appear on exams or be similar to in exam questions. You should be doing these problems weekly as the lectures go on, and not do it just before you need to study for exam, so that you can have a first chance to do these problems week by week basis, and then have another chance to do them when you actually are studying for midterms and final. Also, you can rewrite your notes. This could help for some people, but this personally helped for me because this allowed me to put things into simpler terms so that I could understand the material much more quicker. Another form of active learning you could do in organic chemistry is by using flashcards. I think, to be honest, flashcards, you should probably use them after you understand the material and not right away when you're just starting out. Flashcard app that I use was LAKEY because of the spaced repetition, but Quizlet is also fine as well, and will probably produce pretty much the same result. One form of active learning that you could do is to try to do practice exams. If you can get your hands on past practice exams, you're probably going to be very golden for this class. And for these practice exams, you should try to save them up until when you actually are studying for these midterms or final. Try to do these times so that you can do these in the most realistic setting, and it will allow you to optimize your performance in doing well in this class. Tip number 7 is to try to invest in a molecular model kit. A molecular model kit helps you to visualize molecules in a way that it will just be pretty hard to do it in your head. For me, I recommend to divide the molecular model kit amongst 1 or 2 other people, because I personally didn't really use that much. So the only concepts that I needed a molecular model kit were numeric projections and stereochemistry. I think you should get it, but if you don't have the money for it, it's fine. So tip number 8 is to try to go to office hours immediately the moment you need help. Not only be able to review any material that you got mixed up with, but also you'll be able to get help with practice problems that you have trouble with. And this can serve very important if you want to get a very good grade in organic chemistry. So tip number 9 is to try to use outside resources, especially if you don't have a good professor. So some outside resources that I used were Organic Chemistry as a Second Language. And in this book allowed me to do way more practice problems, and it taught the concepts in a way that were very easy to understand. YouTube is also a very good resource, and there are many channels and videos that explain organic chemistry. So the 3 YouTube channels that I watch for organic chemistry were LAKEY, the Organic Chemistry Tutor, and Professor David Explains. And these 3 channels not only taught the material in a more simple way, but it also gave practice problems that will reinforce the material. And the last resource that I used was Organic Chemistry by David Klein, and this explained much more than Organic Chemistry as a Second Language, and this had a lot more practice problems, and it had pretty much every concept that you can imagine for both Organic Chemistry 1 and 2. So my 10th tip is to try to go to review sessions if your school offers it. So I think review sessions are very good, and you can also get a hint of what could be on future exams, especially the practice problems that they show in these review sessions. Tip 11 is to try to give yourself enough time to study for a midterm and even more time to study for a final. So when I was taking Organic Chemistry 1 and 2, I usually took 2 weeks to study for midterm and 3 weeks to study for a final. But this could all vary depending on the person, so find what works for you. So regardless of what method you use, you should have enough time to review the material, redo every practice problem that could be presented on the midterm and or final, and also you should be able to try a few practice exams so that you can solidify your chances of doing well in the class. And my 12th and last tip is after each midterm result, you should try to review each question regardless of whether you got it right or wrong. And this is very important because even if you get a question right, that question you got right, you could have probably just guessed, or you probably answer it with the wrong reason. So I would say definitely review each question whether you got it right or wrong, so that you can not only increase your chances of doing well on the next midterm, but also try to do well on the final and be able to retain that information for future graduate exams. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope for those who watch this video does well in organic chemistry. Make sure to like and comment on any ideas that you want me to do for future episodes. I'll see you guys later. Peace.